we should have been faster to respond to the referendum by simply saying, in 2017, Theresa May said, hard Brexit, give me a big majority. The voters went, hold on a second. That was when Labour could have gone, do you know what? We heard the voters. They said yes to yes to Brexit, but no to hard Brexit. And Labour could have camped in that space and said, we'll make Brexit work. And that's where Keir is wrenching the party to. And I think, it's like, we have to say, Boris said he'd get Brexit done, he did. Thing is, he can't make it work. So it's Rexit from Boris's side and fix it from our side.
OK, no, what if that's where Starmer is?
And I think
if the party reunites, in a sense, around that. But the other issue, John, that really interests me, and this is a parallel with America, is, the left have been resurgent within the Labour Party. They haven't gone away, they're still there. And by the way, as a former Blairite, how did you join Momentum? I don't quite work that out.
It's a bit like what you said about being leader of UKIP.
Yeah.
You have to follow where the energy is. There was a period when the energy in the Labour Party was on the left. And some people look at that, they look at the energy in politics, they go, I don't want to be near that, I don't want to understand it. I thought there are so many young people who are so interested in politics. And you go and talk to them, and what do they say? They say, basically, John, older politicians like you keep telling us why we can't make the world better. And they weren't accepting it. And I thought, I have got two choices. I can be the old guy who always goes, you can't do it, or I can be somebody who goes, let's find out what's driving the energy. And there's a bunch of voices on the left who, I don't agree with what they want to do. I agree they found the problem. They're saying there is a problem about autonomy at work, agency at work, about precarious lifestyle, so you have to
So that was your reasoning.
It's engaging.
Because here's the next problem for the left.
Yeah.
And it's a problem for the left in America, and it's a problem for the left in this country too. And it is the new left that we've got, or the resurgent left we've got here. And then in America, this kind of the Democrats, this new caucus developing within the Democrats, and AOC perhaps being the most prominent face of it. And they basically think that everything America's ever stood for is dreadful, and the founding fathers are the most awful, brutal, dreadful people, and that kids at school should be taught the shame of being American, and that the wars everybody got involved in were just sort of examples of colonialism. And you've got that going on within the Democrats, just as with cancel culture, the woke mob, and deep within the education system on both sides of the pond. And what's really interesting to me is you say to a lot of traditional left voters in both sides of the Atlantic, they should be ashamed of their past. And they say, do you know what? Our grandfather flew in Lancasters, or our granny worked in a factory in the war. We're not ashamed of the past. We're blooming proud of the past and what and the part that our family played in it. Again, Brexit brought out those feelings, and I just wonder whether the Biden administration isn't in trouble on this, and Labour could be too.
Look, I understand the point you're making, and there are people on all sides in politics who want to tell other people how to live their lives better. That puritanical strain in politics, eat your greens.
Yeah.
One of the greatest strengths...
Get your booster jab.
One of the great strengths of Boris Johnson is he's never, ever told anybody else how to live their life. And that's a
Good job.
It's a liberation for many people to realise a politician's not going to lecture them. So there's a puritanical strain as well on the left particularly. But I think everybody who goes into government has a sense, I'm going to tell you how to live your life. And I think the answer is more complicated. I think that there has definitely been a change since the Black Lives Matter movement. Definitely a change in the way that people talk and think about race. You look at what's going on in Yorkshire cricket, you look at what's going on in football clubs and football fans. There is more concern about racism, and I think Priti Patel found the edges of this from a different way when she tried to get involved in saying, you can boo the England team patriotically. And I think the issue is, 1 in 10 relationships in Britain, adult relationships, are mixed-race relationships. We've got a very diverse population. It's a very diverse population, but lots of people have got black and Asian members in their family.
But that's no reason to tell your kids that we're a terrible country.
No. But I think I'm trying to say there's a complexity about this, which is that there are issues around race and racism where what was acceptable in the 70s isn't acceptable now, and the language used in Yorkshire Cricket Club, and that I think is where political leadership is required, where people don't come into people's houses and tell them how to live with other people, but nor do they stand back, as Priti Patel tried to stand back off. If you boo the England team, who are mixed race, majority mixed race, who are taking the knee, if you boo them, it's not a protest, it's not free speech, it is impolite at the least, racist at the most.
I think taking the knees, John, many of us think taking the knees impolite because it's so linked with that Marxist organisation, Black Lives Matter.
Well, Black Lives Matter is the only time I broke lockdown was to go to the Black Lives Matter demonstration in Westminster.
What, to bring down Western capitalism and defund the police?
No, but I do think...
Well, that's what they stand for.
That's not what they stand for. Black Lives Matter stands for... Black Lives Matter stands for what it says it stands for, Black Lives Matter. And there has been...
Your former boss, and he was absolutely right on this, Blair said, defund the police is the dumbest slogan the left have ever come up with. Look, however, Cressida Dick then made the best ever demonstration why you might want to consider defunding the police by sending the cops in to the Sarah Everard demonstration in Clapham Common. Actually, a second time I broke the lockdown was to go to attend that demonstration. I think the police are not beyond criticism, and they themselves know they need a massive cultural change. The argument, John, I'm making is not about a fair society. It's not about I just think that symbol of taking the knee synonymous with the organisation, and that's been my problem with it.
But I disagree with you on that one. I mean, obviously, I attended the demonstration, so it's important to me, important to my family that we did that.
And Starmer, of course, takes the knee. Can Starmer be the next Prime Minister, or is an 80-seat majority? Is it just too big?
80 seats is yes, in Everest.
Yeah.
Whichever, politics is very volatile at the moment. Look at we've had 2 referendums, Scotland and Brexit. We've had which went in different ways. We've had a coalition government, then a slim majority, then no majority, then a landslide. It feels to me votes are in movement, but you have to, if you're as beaten as badly as Labour are, you have to earn every single vote back, and you have to make sure that people understand. We don't think that Labour voters are unpatriotic. We don't think that people who used to vote for us don't have any place in the Labour Party. We do have to offer them something. I've always thought the way to unite all the wings of the Labour Party is if you offered homes for today's young people, decent pensions for today's workers when they retire, and decent health and social care for older people, you could unite almost all families in all parts of the country around that. But you have to get the right to be heard. And the difficulty for Keir he's had the whole of the lockdown. It's been very hard to be heard when you can't meet people, and at the same time you also can't actually be that critical of the government. Luckily, the government's creating some space in which it's possible to criticise it.
I think that's right.
This may be a thing that cuts through.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
I know.
But, it feels like the Johnson administration has been around for a decade.
Well, I think one of the ways to think about the current politics is you've got a Johnson government trying to say we're a first-term Johnson government and we'd like a second term, when they're a fourth-term Tory government looking for a fifth term. And I was racking my brains when I was waiting in the green room. I can't remember a time any party got 5 in a row.
No.
So I think that's a big stretch for them, but it's a big stretch for Labour as well.
No, absolutely.
And if you're in too long, you lose connections. Even Margaret Thatcher, with her great connections to the British public, lost her ear for it and brought in the poll tax.
Well, that was one thing your former boss did do. He got out very well. Remembrance Sunday, and thank you for joining us here on Talking Pints.
I'm Neil Oliver. You can join me live every Saturday evening for opinions and discussions about the week's top stories. There's also a smattering of history and archaeology and features that define our great British Isles. You'll hear my thoughts unfiltered, as well as those of my guests, and we don't always agree. And we want to hear from you too. Neil Oliver Live, Saturdays from 7 on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Well, joining me here tonight in the GB News pub on Talking Pints is an entrepreneur who is best known for his appearance on The Apprentice and his creative use of the word bosh. Let's have a quick look before I introduce him.
Get your nuts in there, sell as many bites as you can, crack on guys, let's go. Time to go and make some money, mate. What's going on? Bosh. 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 Hello to my fellow space warriors. Come on!
He's Tom Skinner. Tom, bosh.
Cheers, Boris. Nice to see you.
So, The Apprentice.
Yes.
Amazing programme.
Loved it.
You know, and of course Michelle, who was on before me, was in it a couple of years before you, and it's been a big success in this country. In America, of course, the host of it over there for a long time was one certain New York businessman called Donald J. Trump. Clearly, you know, you're kind of, can I say, Jack the Lad?
Yeah, I suppose so,
bit of a geezer.
Yeah.
How did you get on with Alan Sugar?
Do you know what? He's a lovely, lovely man. Obviously, when I've done The Apprentice, I ain't like the normal person that goes on The Apprentice. And I'm a market trader from Romford. That's what I've always done. Went on the show, really, really enjoyed it. I found it like enjoyable. But when I was talking to Alan, like he's a genuine person, you know. He's not. He comes across on that screen like a really scary guy, but when you actually talk to him in person, one to one, he's a top bloke and he'll give you advice.
But he still got rid of you.
He still sacked me, you know
still
what I
fired
mean?
you for not being diligent, not completing tasks on time.
I lost every task, didn't I, Nigel? I was pony on there, let's be honest. I was absolutely pony.
And yet, afterwards, Sugar said, after he sacked you, Sugar said that you were the kind of man you'd want to have with you in the trenches at war. So he was still quite nice about you.
Lovely, wasn't it? Yeah.
You're, I mean, in a sense, Tom, your sort of early years, they are a bit checkered, aren't they? I mean, school is a bit checkered.
Yeah.
You did get kicked out.
Got expelled, yeah.
What did you get expelled?
For being entrepreneurial, for selling porno DVDs.
You deserved it. But none of this has held you back in any way at all. So, talk to us about the word bosh.
Do Do you know what? Right, so I didn't even know I said the word bosh until I went on The Apprentice, and it's just a word that we've always said, you know, bosh. Like, it's just, you know, hey, doing all right, sweet bosh. I don't know where it comes from, but as soon as I went on The Apprentice, obviously picked up, I say it about 400 times a day, and when it went on the telly, it became a trend. Everyone started saying bosh all the time, Nigel, and it was madness. And now I've named my business Bosh Beds after the word. Like, I'm Bosh Global. I've got a couple of Bosh companies.
Even Bosh Golf Clubs.
Even got the Bosh Drive. I'm on the shopping channel twice a week. Sell my own golf club. I'm making a living out of the word Bosh, which ain't too sad.
That's your brand. Now, Bosh Beds, that is now your sort of big emerging business.
Yeah.
How big is Bosh Beds?
It's pretty big now. Started off just me and my mate in the van together, knocking out mattresses, knocking on doors. Literally, that was us, right? I'm not going to lie to you, that was us.
I mean, you are the modern day Del Boy.
Trying to be. But, like, that's how we started. Honestly, we started knocking on doors. Look, we've got these mattresses. Now we employ 12 staff. We supply 200 hotels throughout the UK.
Brilliant.
We sell hundreds of mattresses every single week. And we're a serious, you know, we're almost a household name with the mattresses now, which is good. So.
And you manufacture these in the UK?
Yes, everything has got to be made in the UK. It's really important to me. A lot of these big bed brands, they buy from China. But I mean, IKEA run out of mattresses a little while ago because they couldn't get the stock from China. And we was inundated with orders simply because we had the stock physically making it in the UK, and we was there and we had it, and we done well out of it.
But Tom, let me ask you a question. If you're manufacturing things like mattresses and beds in the United Kingdom, how the hell do you get them to market at a competitive price?
What you've got to realise is mattresses are really big and bulky, and so are beds. So containers are very expensive at the minute, and you can't get a lot in a container, especially from China. So when they actually come over here, once you've paid the travel, it's not as competitive. Whereas what we do is we work extremely skinny on margins. So we ain't greedy, but we'll do hundreds of mattresses every single week. So that's how we do well.
You're doing hundreds every week?
Hundreds every single week. And what Bosh Beds is so good at is, I mean, our best-selling mattress, the aloe vera mattress, is around £400 to £500, depending on the size you get. The equivalent in the big brand stores, like the big retailers, is over £1,500. So that's why we're just inundated, and we've got that personal touch. We'll go and knock on your door, we'll ring you out the next day, ask you how your bed was, how your sleep was, and we just like look after people.
And you started off with pillows?
Started off with pillows, yeah. And then
because in America, My Pillow is absolutely enormous. I mean, and he's in this country now as well, isn't he, I think?
Yes.
I think My Pillow.
Yeah, a little bit.
So you're still doing the pillows?
We're still doing them. We got stuck a bit with COVID because obviously, maddest thing in the world, we couldn't manufacture pillows, but we could still manufacture beds. I don't know how that works, but we sort of slowed down on the pillow front and we pushed on the mattresses. And obviously, now we're known for mattresses and pillows as a sideline. You know, it's just what we do on the side.
Are you making loads of money?
We're doing all right. We're having a go, you know what I mean? We're having a go. Sitting here talking, having a pint with you is quite nice.
Well, very good. We met once before, and it's very nice to see you. Now, what I want to get to, Tom Skinner, and this is important, is, you know, you're somebody, you say, educationally, no advantages, didn't do the university thing, didn't get qualifications at school particularly. You've gone on and succeeded. And there are people out there, lots of people out there, who aren't particularly academic, don't fit in very well at school. And I kind of feel in a society where we've encouraged so many kids to go to university, that those that don't go are almost made to feel a bit like failures, a bit like they haven't made the grade.
Yes, it's wrong really. Like, I mean, look, I'm dyslexic, so I still to this day, I've got someone that does all my paperwork for me because I cannot do it, can't do it. Sorry, that beer's a bit gassy, right? And yeah, you're right, you know, so many kids, especially nowadays, are taught, you have to do this, you have to do that. I'd say, look, find something that you're good at, concentrate on it, whether it be anything, what it is, you find your goal, your you know, what you're great at, and you focus on that. Like, I'm good at selling, I'm good at talking to people.
So what's the art of selling?
Just listen, making someone like you and getting something at a good price, and that's it. That is simply all it is. It's that easy.
Getting them a good price or getting you a good price?
Getting them a good price, and yourself, of course. You've got to make a profit as well, haven't you? Can't do it with nothing.
Because I'm just thinking, you know, people like you, I think, potentially, quite an interesting role model for people who, as I say, like you, may be dyslexic, find school very difficult, don't fit in particularly. What does it take to be an entrepreneur?
a lot of our work. I mean, this morning I was up at 4:30 this morning, loading the vans up, and then because we've got to cut the drivers off with the dreaded COVID at the minute, which is a nightmare. I'd loaded the vans up. It's hard work, you know. Made sure everyone's all was there.
You're physically doing all this yourself?
Yeah, I mean, not every day I do it because we've got a lot of staff in place that do them roles. But on days, I'm very hands-on. I love getting involved. Like, when you've got to be an entrepreneur, you've got to work long hours. It's hard graft. But I enjoy it. But the rewards are brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's right. There's no substitute, is there?
Yeah, of course.
People think being self-employed could be a soft touch, but it's not, is it? It's a damn difficult thing to do.
Anyone can do a 9 to 5 and go to work, and I'm well done with them going to work. But if you want to step outside that box and you feel like you've got an idea, like anyone who's watching this, go and run with it. Give yourself a go. Give it 100%, because you find out that you actually have got some skills that you never knew you had, and anything you can overcome, especially I've found it when I've been grafting, that I've found things I thought I could never do, and in the end I found I can do them.
So you're not standing on a freezing market stall in Romford Market anymore?
I still do the odd market here and there.
Do you?
Yes, of course I do. Yeah, I love them. It's in me blood. I can't stop it. I love doing the odd market stall every now and then.
I think that's fascinating. You don't need to, do you?
No, I don't need to at all, but I just love it. I absolutely love it. I love meeting people. I love standing there. I love doing a deal. But we done Northfield Market a couple of weeks ago, and I was just on the store. I was selling bar stools, funny enough, for 25 quid. They was 80 quid online, and we've done loads of them, and I just love the buzz. People going, can I have a photo of you, Tom? I see you on the telly. And it was just a nice day. Earned a few quid, treat the missus in the evening, and had a laugh.
It's fascinating. And golf is obviously your big hobby. This is your big thing, is it?
Yeah.
And tell us about the Dream 4 ball.
Right, Dream 4 ball. God, I don't know. I have, you know. I couldn't actually say what Dream 4 ball is, because there's not enough. You can't have 4 players, can you?
Are you a good player?
I'm okay. I've got an 11 handicap.
Yeah.
I've just brought out my Bosch driver.
So okay, let's just get into that then, because I mean the golf market is massively competitive.
Yeah.
You know, these golf superstores, online. You know, tens of millions play this game globally. You've got real money to spend. How on earth do you get into a market like that?
Well, I'll tell you what happened, Nigel, right? So I did have an old set of clubs that were my granddad's, handed down. They was ancient. And then my driver went a bit wafty. I smashed the floor. Head come flying. I thought, time to get a new club.
In temper?
So I said, no, literally had a miss it, bang, whacked into the floor. Head's gone further than the ball. Thought, go and get a new driver. So I've gone into the pro shop, and they're all 600 quid. And the pro's going to me, well, you're not quite good enough for that one, and this one you've got to screw up to do that, and this one you need to... And I went, I just want a driver I can hit, mate. And in the end, I thought, sod this, I'm going to go and make my own. So I went and found the manufacturer, went and done some designs, went and spoke to the big brands, copied a couple of ideas, and brought out my own Bosch driver. And we've been on the shopping channel with it, on Ideal World, and we've been doing really well with it. And
what does the Bosch driver set me back?
199 quid. So it's a third of the price of the competitors.
Is it any good?
It's the nuts. It's the nuts. I'll tell you what.
This is what Del Boy said to everybody who bought stuff.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you one. Right? You play with it as many times as you want, right?
Yeah.
And for nothing. And if it's rubbish, I'll give you 200 quid as well.
There you go.
Right?
He's the salesman. He never blooming stops, does he? He's the salesman. No, it's really interesting. I mean, I'm amazed that you can break into a market like golf.
It's difficult,
Absolutely
amazed.
So what's next for Tom Skinner? What do you do next?
There's loads. Probably a putter. Probably bring a putter out. I'm going to carry on focusing on my beds and my mattresses. We've got new ranges. We've got new pillars launching just before Christmas. I want to grow the business. You know, I want to keep building it up. Because most of my employees are my childhood friends as well.
Yeah.
Keep it nice and close, but we're expanding now. We're nationwide now, and just want to really build an empire. That's the plan.
Maybe one day go public or do whatever people
love
do.
to. Yeah, maybe that would little IPO or something in the future.
Well, we had somebody in not long ago, Charlie Mullins, Pimlico Plumbers.
Yeah.
And he's just sold his company for, I think, 145 million. So it can be done.
Of course.
What about the country? What about the state of the country, Tom? How do you see the state of the country right now?
Yeah, it's not in the best state at the moment, is it? Let's be honest. But you know, I think we've all got to keep cracking away and keep doing what we're doing, and just, you know, I'll tell you, man.
I mean, the pandemic You know, the pandemic. I mean, what that's done.
What I think
to sort of people's psychology.
Yeah. What I think is really, really scary is so many people have lost their businesses, lost their jobs. They're on their knees, and there's no help out there at the minute. You know, we just spoke before we come on about the COVID passports. How do they expect hospitality sector to survive with these? You know, all these things that they're trying to do. They're just cutting people's knees off so they can't walk. And I don't understand why that's happening, because it ain't good for the economy. No tax is going to be paid. Like, I don't think people understand the follow-on of what is actually going on.
Yeah, it is the little people, it is the self-employed that have been hurt. But the hospitality sector.
No, this is the maddest thing. What people don't realise is literally like the majority of the tax in this country is from SMEs, small businesses, self-employed. That's where the money comes.
They're ignored.
But that's where the money goes for the NHS. That's where the taxes come from, and no one seems to see this. It's mental.
Is Boris a good Prime Minister?
Look, I mean, he's got a silly haircut. And a dodgy suit. I don't mind Boris. I don't mind Boris at all. Look, to be honest with you, when it comes to politics, I don't know enough to say what a good Prime Minister is and what a bad one is as well. So I don't know.
But you want a country that's well run.
Of course.
And you're clearly very patriotic.
100%. You know, 100%. Of course I am. I'm very proud of saying that all my products are made in the UK. You know, so on every single bed you'll see a big Union Jack saying "Made with love in the UK." It's what we do.
And I guess really the story here, above all, Tom, is for young people that want to really make a big career in something, get on telly.
Get on telly, yeah.
Because you've done all this without The Apprentice.
Do you know what? Look, before I was on The Apprentice, I was doing okay. It gave me a massive, massive leg up. I would have got there in the end. It took me a lot longer, but I would have got there. I'd never given up. But look, for anyone that's watching this that wants to become an entrepreneur or get to work, just give it a go. Like, just go and give it your all. Whatever it is, just believe in yourself, and it don't matter how big the steps are you're taking, as long as you're in the right direction, that's it, you know what I mean?
Well, that was Tom Skinner on Talking Pints, saying to people, give it your all, believe in yourself and go for it. How about that?
Hi, I'm Alistair Stewart, and I really hope that you can join me here on GB News. I've been in this game for 40 years, and I've made lots of friends, and I try and reflect what they think about the big stories of the day in conversation with me. That's why we call it Alistair Stewart and Friends, and you're a key part of it as well. I always get inundated with emails and messages and texts, and if they're really good, I play them back to you. 12 till 3, every Saturday and Sunday.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, Talking Pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
No Farage to Barrage tonight, but you can stump the Stein, give it your best shot. GB Views at gbnews.uk. Talking pints, I have my pint. We're trying to do it at a bit of a distance tonight, and I hope Martin Roberts certainly has as a convivial tipple. You'll know Martin from his shows on the telly and the radio, Home Rule and Homes Under the Hammer. He's an acclaimed expert on property, not just in these islands, but around the world. But he also is exploring what we might discreetly call the property of a gentleman, because he's going to be on the next season of Strictly the Real Full Monty. It's great to see Martin. Let me ask you this. You've been doing these property shows for a while now. What actually was your first property? When did you first become a property owner, Martin?
So, hi, and I hope you're enjoying autumn in Vermont. It must be amazing. One of the most beautiful places in the world right now. So, my granny died and left some money to me, and I used that as a deposit on my first house, which was a 3-bedroom semi-detached in Romilly near Stockport. And I just did what my dad had done, which was just do the DIY thing. So, I replaced the kitchen, replaced the bathroom. At the same time, I was sort of starting my career in the media, earning diddly squat. But during 2 years, I did at the house, and 2 years on, I came to sell it, and it had doubled in value. And suddenly the penny dropped that property can not only be a place that you live, it can actually, if you do it right and do it, professionally, it can be something that can make you some money. So in the same time as I earned like £3.50 from the media career, I earned like 25 grand from doing up this house, and it was like, yeah, okay.
Well, I take it your granny didn't leave you £750,000, or whatever the average cost of property is in southern England these days. It was easier, wasn't it, to get your first foot on the property ladder? And do you think it's possible that that kind of first start on the property ladder can come again?
And you say it was easy. Well, it's all relative, right? My first house was £23,000 and my granny left me 5 grand. So that was a great start in terms of the deposit. But let me take you back to that period. And I was paying a mortgage, okay, which I locked in because I thought it was a good deal at 15%. So I was on a 15% mortgage. Now, people these days, obviously, they're having to pay more to find their properties. But once they manage to do it, we are in these incredible times when mortgages and interest rates are just ridiculously low. Now, whether that's going to go up over the short period or the medium term, who knows? But at the moment, it makes perfect sense if you can get in. And what I try and encourage people to do is, if you are struggling to get on the ladder, maybe cast your net a bit further afield. Maybe don't necessarily buy where you would ideally like to end up, which might be quite an expensive place. Look at other parts of the country where you can still get, a really nice 2-bedroom terraced house for 65 grand. Buy things that you can add value to, like I did, okay? So buy your first house that isn't perfect, but you've got time, you've got energy, you've got enthusiasm, you can do it up like I did up that house that I first bought, and you can gradually start working your way up. So I really try to encourage people who are starting out who think there's no hope that I can do this, to think laterally. And also there's ways you can buy property which doesn't cost you anything. Look, you might have some friends who've got money in a building society or a bank earning them diddly squat. You've got time, you've got energy. Why don't you say to them, do it professionally, do it through a solicitor, but I will take the money, we'll buy a house together, I put my effort into doing it up, you get some money back, we'll sell that property, assuming we make some money on it, and we split the profits. So let's say you do that on a £65,000 house, they put the money in, you do it, you do all the energy, you do the work, you sell it for 100 grand, you made 35 grand, let's take off something for tax, you made 30 grand between you, you split it 50-50, you've suddenly got £15,000 and you started with nothing. So there are ways of doing it, Mark, and I really encourage people not to give up.
Well, you said that when you doubled the value of your first property, that you realised that, owning a house isn't just about having a place to live. And Britain certainly is has got a gangbusters housing market. I mean, basically for the cost of a basement in Romford, you could buy entire counties in northern New Hampshire, where I've lived for many years. It's very different. But there are consequences to expensive property, are there not? For example, if we talk about family formation, it's very hard to have, say, 3 kids if you're just living in a one-room bedsit because that's all you can afford. So do you think, you know, there are pluses and minuses with a roaring property market?
You know, and my heart goes out to everyone who's struggling to try and afford a place to live. But I just encourage people to literally think a little bit laterally. I run property training courses where we teach people literally for how you can get on the housing market, you know, with very little money. And so it's about just thinking slightly wider than what you know you're used to. Perhaps going down to an estate agent, looking in the window, saying I'll never be able to afford that. You know, you need to think in other ways. And as I said, it might be that you can reach further afield from where you'd like to end up and get yourself going on the property market. But there's not an easy route to this, okay? It requires time, it requires energy, it requires dedication. But if you want to get there, you know, I just encourage people not to give up.
Well, do you think the COVID may have helped by that? Because you say, you know, think about looking, you might dream of living in South Kensington or whatever, but look a little further out. And do you think COVID enabling people to work at home so they don't have to commute, in theory, you could be in the Shetland Islands and maybe just take a cheap flight to town when you have to go and actually see the boss in person. So do you think that COVID has actually changed the way people calculate these things?
Absolutely. You could be in Vermont, for instance. Wouldn't that be lovely? But no, you know, it's opened up a whole new raft of places that you think about buying. You know, that thing that was tying you to an expensive property, maybe close to the centre of a city or in a city. Suddenly, you know, you can, as you quite rightly say, as long as it's got reasonable broadband, you know, you can actually be further afield. So that's another reason why it enables you to think, you know, slightly in a concentric ring circle, and this is one of the principles that we teach. Actually, there's this thing called concentric ring theory, where you know you might want to be in the centre of that ring, but actually, if you just look at sort of expanding your ring of where you might look, those often are places that the prices will go up as a result of people not being able to afford right bang in the centre. So if you took Kensington and Chelsea, you move out to Richmond, and then you move further afield, and you keep on going until you find a place that is affordable. And as you say, without the need to coming into the office every day, suddenly maybe, you know, that commuter side of things is not a factor into your equation. And that is one of the things that has driven, you know, the incredible rise in house prices at a time, let me take you back, Mark, to 2020, when, you know, in March, people, clever people, were predicting, you know, we're talking 30, 40, 50% drops in the housing market. And Rishi came along and he said, actually, we'll do the stamp duty holiday, because everyone was telling him, oh, it's going to be a complete Armageddon. And what have we seen? We've seen a resilience that nobody could have predicted, and that's partly due to a change of attitude. People saying, you know what, I'd quite like to have a better quality of life. I'd quite like to have more room for the family. I'd quite like to have a space that I can have as an office. You know, I want a better quality of life, and I think that's a combination of practical things and also the shock that we've all been through with COVID, and it's come out of the woodwork, and it's slapped us to say, you know, life can change like that. So why not live your dreams now? And that has driven what we've seen, and most people would agree, to be an incredible rise in house prices over that period.
That's a beautiful way to put it, Martin. Live your dreams now, because you don't know what will be coming tomorrow. Cheers! We shall follow you with interest on the full Monty. I don't know whether you're actually going to show the full bungalow with 2 attached gazebos, but we shall look at the show with great interest. Thank you very much, Martin.
Pleasure.
Well, here we are in the Royal Artillery Club in Sunderland, as opposed to the GBNews pub in London, and it's Talking Pints. And I'm joined tonight by local man Ger Fowler. Ger, welcome to Talking Pints. And once again, somebody who has decided to do something, not just to see what's going on with our veteran community. And Ger, what I want you to do, please, if you will, is just tell us a little bit about how you got into this position of understanding and realising something had to be done. And a lot of it was to do, I think, with your service in the British Army in Northern Ireland?
So I joined the army when I was 16. Went to Northern Ireland when I was 17. I was involved in a terrorist attack when I was 18. 8 people died. And I'm not going to blame that on what happened next, but it was the summer of love. I started taking ecstasy, started smoking weed, kind of...
This is when you were demobbed, is it?
No, this is why I was still in the army. This is why I was still in the army. So, but I wouldn't blame that on what happened to us. I would think that was more of a sort of time thing, end of the 80s, early 90s. Got posted to Berlin, that sort of stuff got worse. So I decided to leave the army because, to be quite honest, you can't have an infantry soldier who wants to cuddle everybody all the time. I ended up leaving, come back to Sunderland, still partying for years, and my best friend from the army killed himself. Weren't sure what the reason for that was. I went to the doctors. After seeing psychiatrists and stuff, I was diagnosed with PTSD from my time in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, the particular terrorist attack that you were there at the time with was pretty awful and pretty shocking. How did, as somebody who'd been through that, how did the army deal with that?
To be quite honest, they just tell you to put your berry on and get back to work. They didn't do anything at all. And if you think I was an 18-year-old kid and everyone who died nobody was over 21 out of the 8 lads, I think it was pretty shocking, to be quite honest. I mean, I'm not resentful of it at all, because that resentment's gone now. I don't know if it's maturity or the passing of time, but I haven't got any resentment for anybody now.
So once you're diagnosed with PTSD, you then start to get some help?
Yeah, sort of help. I was given a community nurse, that wasn't any good. Then I was given a psychiatrist who was about 22 and told us said, I know exactly how you feel. And I was thinking, I don't really think you do. So I decided then to kind of just drop out of treatment. They put us on antidepressants. I was smoking a lot of weed, I was drinking a lot, and then in 1999, I was involved in which sounds kind of funny now, but I was attacked by dogs, right? So, and I was nearly killed. So I ended up with really bad injuries. I got 28 stitches in my arm. I had 3 discs out my back. And because of that, I ended up addicted to painkillers, opiates. That went on for about 10 years, something like that. And considering all the other drugs I took to enjoy myself, I'd done nothing to us. And now the stuff the doctor had given us, I ended up addicted to that. I got to a stage when, unfortunately for me, somebody had said that I was smoking weed. My house got raided off the police, and that was a wake-up call. And luckily, them people did that to sort of ruin us, but it changed my life for the better, really.
Well, so that was the wake-up call you needed?
From that day, it'll be 12 years on New Year's Eve. From that day, I haven't smoked weed or anything, and I stopped all antidepressants, I stopped all the opiates, all on that day, and I stopped drinking for a bit as well.
And now, you've set up an organisation. I want you to tell the audience what it is and what it does, because I'm really fascinated by it.
So, another thing that happened to us, I was in my parents' house and my dad died, and I'd give him CPR and it didn't work. So I had a bakery at the time with my niece, and I just thought I want to do something where I help people. So I ended up volunteering at a homeless charity, and when I was doing that, I was finding quite a lot of ex-servicemen in the hostels of Sunderland that weren't getting any help, because there was no RBL kind of presence in Sunderland. So really, you had to get to Newcastle, you had to have a mobile phone, you had to have the internet.
I think 10% of people sleeping rough on the streets in this country are people who've been in the services. I mean, it's hard to believe.
And so I decided to start something myself, so I did it in my own time. Then the charity I worked for, we didn't really have the same morals, so I left and set up on my own. I was lucky enough to... unfortunately, I was doing a talk at St James's Park, but luckily...
For those at home that don't get it, there is, in this part of England, quite considerable rivalry between Sunderland and Newcastle, OK?
So when I did the talk, I was lucky enough, there was a lady called Jessica and from Sunderland Council, and a lady called Gloria from Sunderland CCG saw me talk and said, do I want to do a little bit of work for 2 months? Because of that, I just carried on doing it. I used my own money. I actually started with a £10 pay-as-you-go mobile phone.
And was it at the time called Veterans in Crisis Sunderland? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and I just used Greg's as my office, to be honest. Just used to take the clients and buy them a cuppa. And it's basically
you do go for the healthy options with everything, don't you?
And it just snowballed from there. I'm lucky enough to get sort of the backing of everyone from Sunderland, so the top of the council all the way to the man in the street. Every single person I've asked for help's helped, and I can only thank them enough, because if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have worked anyway.
And in terms of what you offer now for ex-servicemen in this area that are in trouble, it's meetings, it's get-togethers.
So we have a coffee morning here every Tuesday, but we've actually bought our own paid up front now, so we own a 4-storey building which has an office, a drop-in, an emergency apartment for a family of 4, a therapy centre and a podcast studio with an IT suite.
How did you do all this?
I don't know, I just blagging my way through it.
But how do you raise the money to do all this? I mean, it's incredible.
We were lucky enough to... when I first started, I knew a guy who was a bid writer and had started community interest companies before, so I went to see him. So he's been like sort of the backbone for us. I picked people who would really help us. I made partnerships with people that could help us, and you know, it's forward thinking. That's all. And luck.
Well, I think you make your own luck, Joe, really. I think that's phenomenal what you've done. And I was reading about the case of one particular veteran, just referred to by his initials, SS. Okay. Just tell us about the case. There's a really remarkable story about that one individual and what you did for him.
So, you better show us him, because I've got loads of cards.
Oh, right, well, that was the one I got, but...
All right, so that young lad, he came to us one week to the meeting, and he attempted suicide. So when he came in, it's not like any other service. Basically, everyone was just winding him up about it, about him committing suicide. It's really quiet. Came the next week, there was a new guy there, and he was like, it's brilliant here, because I felt much better when I left. So because he came a few times, we ended up getting him a job, got him off benefits, got him a place to live, and he's just had a child, actually. So.
It's fantastic. No, it's really, really good. Well, I have to say, I've been very inspired by some of the people that have been up here today and I've met in Sunderland, and real get up and go attitude. And tell me, November the 11th, Remembrance Sunday coming up this weekend, what does it mean to you?
To be honest, it means everything to me. What I try to get across is, I know it's one day for everybody else, but this is what we do every day. You know, people should remember every day, and I'm lucky in Sunderland people do remember every day. Everyone I ask, people raise money all the time. There isn't one group or one person that I've asked for help have said no in Sunderland. So it's just a tremendous like.
And when it comes to what happens this Sunday, my understanding is that the turnout at your own cenotaph here in Sunderland is the second biggest in the whole country after what goes on down in London.
Yeah.
And that's always been the case?
Yeah.
What is it about this part of the world?
It's brilliant. No. It's brilliant.
There is something amazingly patriotic, clearly, about Sunderland and its massive contribution that it's made, and you were part of that, and you're one of those. There aren't so many around now, you know, in this age bracket that have been through and understand what loss and death and horrible things can happen fighting in these conflicts. You've done it, you've come through it, you've obviously had some very, very tough times. You've come out the other side, you're doing great work for other human beings. Last question for you. You've managed to get this going in Sunderland. How do we get this going in more parts of the country?
Everyone has to move to Sunderland.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was my guest, Ger Fowler, on Talking Pints today.
Hi, I'm Patrick Christies.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
And we're hosting a show right here on GB News, 9:30am till 12pm, every single weekday. Call to the point.
We're going to be talking about all the big issues that matter to you at home in Britain.
Absolutely, whether it's holding politicians to account, discussing what's taking place in the Channel, banging on about law and order, we're not afraid to do the absolute lot of it.
Yes, and if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we'll be saying it.
Make sure you're here 9:30am till 12pm, every single weekday, right here on GB News, for To The Point.
I'm Neil Oliver. You can join me live every Saturday evening for opinions and discussions about the week's top stories. There's also a smattering of history and archaeology and features that define our great British Isles. You'll hear my thoughts unfiltered, as well as those of my guests, and we don't always agree. And we want to hear from you too. Neil Oliver Live, Saturdays from 7 on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Standing in for Neil Oliver this evening. Coming up on the show, it feels like Groundhog Day for many. COP26 ends with a bunch of promises, but will they actually help save the planet? We'll meet our Great Britons this week, a mother and son who've raised thousands for charity. And I'll be speaking to a man whose life and indeed those of three other generations of his family have been dedicated to the luxury hotel business. That's all ahead, but first, Karen has your latest news headlines.
Hello, I'm Karen Roberts. These are your latest headlines. World leaders at COP26 in Glasgow are still discussing the finishing touches of the agreement. The conference has been extended to allow the 200 countries more time to sign off on the third revised climate draft. Representatives from India, China, the United States and the European Union are negotiating the details of the phase-out of coal. COP26 President Alok Sharma has told the summit we will fail or succeed as one. And the EU's climate police chief warned leaders to not stumble on a couple of metres from the finishing line.
As I said at the start of this conference, we will succeed or fail as one.